What's up, guys? It's Apurva. Got another great friend with me that has been in the real estate journey for many, many years. I'm so excited to catch up with V. Lee with REBallers.com.
Yes.
That is your community, your real estate investing community that you've put together. But wear many hats. We're going to unpack all of that.
Too many.
Too many hats, right? Typical entrepreneur. We're going to unpack a lot of this today. I'm so excited to share her journey. Heavily in the short-term rental game. I'll just kind of preface it with that. So we're going to unpack that. But, previous episode, I had a friend that had done it at massive scale. I think V's portfolio is a little bit more something that people can kind of understand a little better because he had gone another level. But V's on her way as well. And so I want to kind of talk about that. But we'll take it from the top. V, first of all, how have you been? How's life? Tell me a little bit about your journey, your background, and kind of the segue into how you got into real estate, like from the very beginning.
Oh my. I'm going to try to sum up my 9 years of real estate into like 3 minutes.
Perfect.
Back in 2014 was when I first started with real estate. And the reason was because I became a mom and I was running my other family business and I was working 24/7 and there was no way I have time for my kid, my daughter. So like I had to do something else. And luckily I got into real estate. Fast forward, here we are. I don't know how to say no. So I keep on adding things to my plate. And my business coach and I now have an agreement that every time I add on something, I have to remove something.
That's fair.
Fair,
That's fair.
So here we are today. I'm doing buy and sell property, buy, fix, and flip. I have a long-term rental portfolio that we manage ourselves. And then I have a property management company, Buzz Vacation Rental. We manage short-term rental and vacation rentals for myself and for clients. And then this is what I do for fun, the real estate ballers. I love to help people to get started with real estate. I am passionate about real estate. I love real estate, as you know. So I want to create this community because I want other people to have an opportunity like I did years ago. And so that's me.
That's incredible. It's interesting because like most entrepreneurs, the first step is always like, hey, I want to find kind of time freedom, financial freedom, whatever it is. But then it's the exact opposite. It's like you lock yourself with all these commitments and obligations and responsibilities, but not having a master, not having a boss, not having anybody to answer to, people just are wired to work harder when they are free, right?
Yeah.
And so that's incredible. So let's talk about real quick. So walk me through your portfolio today. So you mentioned you got some long-term, you got some short-term. You share whatever you're comfortable with, but like give me some sizes so we can kind of get an idea of what 9 years have amassed you.
So when I first started, I did my vision board, right?
Yep.
And I'd say, okay, I want to take my family on 2 vacations a year. I want to have 2 houses, like a beach house, a house I live in, or 3, and then a mountain house, whatever. I figure out all of that's going to cost me X dollars. I think it was like $60,000 a month to have all of it,
yes.
right? So then I said I needed like 130 doors or so. So then as I grew and matured, today I don't have 130 doors and I don't want 130 doors. My mindset has changed because throughout the years, I'm seeing my portfolio, I'm seeing different type of asset that I have in my portfolio, from like a $30,000 house that I bought to $500,000 or over $1 million house that I bought over the years. And that changed my mindset. So I no longer chase the number of doors, but I am now more interested in my volume, the volume in my portfolio. And I have a small goal. I used to want to be the biggest person, the number one on the board, but that has all changed because at the end of the day, my most important asset, my most precious thing is my daughter.
Of course.
So I want to make sure I have the time for her because I realize I can't be everything at all the time. So because of that, I now shift my mindset into I only want to have a portfolio of 10 million. And so I'm almost there, pretty close.
Incredible.
When I get there and I just keep building that, growing it, probably not sell it, but maybe pay it down, through rent and then cash out and go buy more maybe. I don't know yet.
So I'm just going to say between 7 to 8 million, it sounds like, in terms of total top line value size, book value size. How much of that is short-term rental and how much of that is long-term rental right now?
A third of it is short term and obviously the higher end value you are the short-term rentals, and then the lower end are the long-term rentals.
So it sounds like in the 9-year journey that you've been on, it moved at different paces, but it's, averaging almost $1 million a year in terms of kind of growth, right? Whether it's all came in the last few years or whatever, right? So when did you are we still thinking long-term anymore? Or are you short-term rentals is a better cash flow? We know that. But is that kind of a priority, or where's your kind of head at?
It's a blend. I'm not going to go completely short-term because that business is a different animal.
Yes.
The long-term, you still got the stability, you buy this 4-2, 3-2 home, you know exactly what you get every month, and there's no, up and down.
Right.
With short term, there's a lot of ups and downs. Like right now, we're going through a downside, right? So it can be nerve-wracking. So I will continue to have a portfolio, a blend of long-term, short-term, mid-end to high-end kind of stuff. I feel more, the low-end stuff is good too, but because it takes longer to appreciate, and I've seen it, you've probably seen it through your own portfolio too, from where your higher-end property, when it appreciates, it can go from 500 to 900.
Yes, fast.
Your $50,000 property will go from 50 to 100.
Yeah.
So it takes forever, right?
Correct.
So
no, it's very true. And so today, give me a quick sense of what gets your attention. You have access because you've got great systems in place, a platform to see a lot of deal flow, which is incredible. What gets your attention these days? Because there's so many. Yes, sometimes that quick $50,000 deal, oh man, that maybe it's a quick and easy one, but is it a distraction from longer term goals these days? Give me kind of a sense of how you underwrite.
In terms of deals, okay. So I am still buying single family homes.
Yep,
I'm not getting into the multifamily. I know that's the wave right now, but it's not my lane. So I'm staying in my lane. I'm going after something. So if it's a long-term property, I like one story, certain type in a good neighborhood, get my attention.
Yep.
I'm not looking for huge amount of cash flow. Now, what really get my attentions are the beach houses, the upscale rental, where I can potentially charge $1,000, $2,000 a night and enjoy the appreciation down the line. So those are the kind of property that really get my attention.
So short-term rental with kind of that has a premium factor.
Yeah.
That can command a more premium nightly rate, right? But also has kind of some long-term upside based on the water proximity, some amenities, whatever those things are.
Yes, because I'm not trying to cash flow on these assets.
Yep.
All I'm looking for is if it generates enough rent to pay for itself.
Yes.
And then, a couple years from now, 5 years from now, the property would appreciate.
Yeah.
Because you only have so many beachfront property or waterfront properties, and
so there's some moat around it that gives you some kind of forced value over time.
Yeah,
right?
And look, we all like to brag, right? That's what we all do. And the entrepreneur, they like to pat themselves in the back and talk about stuff they have. And
very true.
It's more fun to brag about the beach house,
True.
That it is, I got a $200,000 rental in the hood.
Yes, that's very much true. Okay, so love kind of the angles. So when that's a little harder to source those type of deals.
It is.
Give me some tricks that you're willing to share of how are you finding deals like that, right? It's not somebody calling and saying, hey, I got a beach house I need to dump tomorrow. It's you got to do some work to find some stuff like that.
You just keep looking. You don't stop looking. Unfortunately, at that price point, your sellers are a little bit more savvy.
Of course.
Than the other sellers at, the low end price point. So you just got to keep looking. And when you see those deals, just go after them.
Are you doing direct to seller type of effort or on MLS?
On MLS.
Okay.
I'm looking for mostly these homes are turnkey.
Yes.
I don't,
not a lot of work.
Yeah. And where we can go in and redesign them a little bit. Not necessarily have to do a full rehab, right?
Okay. Make it more vacation rental friendly.
Yeah.
And then obviously you furnish and do all the updating and kind of just get it ready for that.
Yeah.
And that's your property management. So that's a good segue to your short-term rental property management company. So walk me through how did that formulate? Why on earth do you want to do property management? I mean, you're good at it, clearly, but what was the motivation to develop that out?
I know. You just reminded me that I started this whole journey. Well, actually, I was grinding in the beginning. My first 5 years, 6 years, I was just grinding through the days, right? Working hard. And then I started this journey of how can I work less? Mm-hmm. And I don't know what I'm thinking to go into property management.
Right.
Work less is my motto, right?
That's right.
So why I started was opportunity. another opportunity, another stream of income. And with property management, if we have good process, good system, good people in place, I now can make it into a business. And who else better to manage my property than my own company? Right. And also use that expertise that I have, my team has, to help other investors to manage their asset as well. Because we believe we're really good at what we do. And thinking, most property managers don't think like investors. So they think from the property manager standpoint. So they miss out the piece that the investor want most, right? Which is return for their money.
Correct.
Like the property managers only want to have the really good asset and want the owner to spend a lot of money in that asset so they have the best property, which makes it easy.
Right.
But from an investor standpoint, I also look at, okay, where do I best spend that money on this property so I can generate the most revenue?
Right.
And then how do I keep that asset, like maintain that asset? So I look at it from a different perspective, and I don't want to be the biggest guy. I don't want to be like Vacasa. We want to keep it small, and we want to keep it boutique and specialized.
Yes. But your unique value to any landlord or owner that wants to engage your company is that you have an investor's lens. Right? Like that seems like a no-brainer, right? But then for your, at least, compartmentalizing the brain damage that, property managers, you have good owners and partners that are your clients.
Right.
They understand it's like a win-win. Hey, get out of my way. We know what we're doing. We've got your back. Let us do what we do.
Yes.
Right?
So most of our clients, they know me well and they know how I am, in business. And so this is what they do. They just hand over the property and let me run with it.
Yes.
I don't ever hear from them except for when we do happy hours, right?
That's perfect. I mean, that's what you want.
And I love that. Yes, because they trust us to know what we do.
I mean, when I first amassed our single family, I consciously wanted to be an asset manager. I figured out quickly, I'd rather say, is that I don't want to do property management. And there's like this blur that a lot of real estate owners and landlords sometimes can't figure out. Like, don't be the property manager. Hire a great company to be the property manager that knows what they're doing and you can trust. Is it free? Absolutely not. Does it affect your bottom line? Of course it does. But if it's affecting it the right way, it actually helps you grow your bottom line because you can focus on asset managing, building your portfolio, managing from a spreadsheet. Like, that's where I want to be. I don't want to be on the ground, like, looking into like the kitchen, seeing what happened with the property. Like, I don't want to know, right? Like, that's why we trust somebody like you.
Yeah, or have a housekeeper throw a party, right?
We're going to talk about that. You gave me a snippet into that in a second. So I'm going to go back for a second. Tell me about your first deal, like the first one. Nervous, new.
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
What's the saying? You never forget your first, right?
Yes, that's right.
So same with a house. I still remember as if it happened yesterday. So I was I don't know, lucky, whatever you call it, my first call into the lead line, set an appointment, went out to meet with this young couple. The girl was pregnant. She inherited the house from her mom. Young couple, they were dating or whatever. The house was so rough. One of the bathrooms was blocked off. Wow. They didn't use it because it was so bad. Mold, water damage, whatever. The backyard, you can't even walk in the backyard because the grass is like that tall, like it was almost as tall as me. So I walked through this property and coming to America, like stuff like this, I haven't seen. I'm like, how can people in America have this kind of home?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable because this is like something I would see back in my homeland. And so we walk, and I was thinking this pregnant young lady needs to get out of here, find a better place to be because she shouldn't be in this house. So I did my numbers, made my offer, and she just took it.
Wow.
Like, we didn't even go back in the house to make the offer. It was that bad. They were sitting on the bench in the porch. I was standing. I was making my first offer. And she smiled. She's like, okay. And I'm like, what? Did I just buy the house?
That's incredible. And so like, I'll kind of unpack a little bit just for a second so that people have context, right? So you're part of a platform of one of the bigger home buyer companies in the country. And so that's how you get deal flow today. And you're still doing that very successfully for many years, right? So you get kind of opportunities of motivated sellers that contact you, right? This was your first one.
Yeah.
And so like, there's always this stigma around like, hey, are we, what's happening to these distressed sellers, right?
Yeah.
But what I've learned is in the right context, with the right communication, with the right education, more often than not, you're solving a really big problem, right? right? And we're investors. There's got to be a value or reason for us to come in and solve a really big problem. The bathroom's not working, the property's a disaster, like these things. And there's very few people that want to even try, right? And so like, and there's very, very little banks that'll touch it. It's just not, there's a very narrow lane of ways to solve the problem to begin with, right? And so it's unfortunate these situations happen. This was an inheritance, you said, right? Like these, you know, people don't even sign up for these things sometimes, right? So like, I think there is a line, right? That like sometimes when there's not education and clear representation and things like that done, but you know, this is a very reputable platform you're on. And so like what the good news is like when it's done right, yes, there's profit to be made, but you did something right for the person. You solved a real problem for somebody that didn't know how to get out of it or didn't have the means to get out of it. So that's incredible, right? So what did you do? Like, did you buy it, rehab it, flip it? What did we do with this first one to kind of jumpstart your journey?
Rehabbing? No. I knew nothing about rehabbing at that point. So I wouldn't feel good about, you know, rehabbing all that stuff. So I cleaned it out really good. Spent several thousand on doing the yard. I remember it cost like $2,000 just to get the yard done. It was a lot of work. It was bad. Yeah. I mean, this is 9 years ago. $2,000 for the yard. It was bad. Cut out all the bad part, and then I sold it to another investor who ended up flipping the property. I still see that investor around every now and then when we still talk about that property.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
That's amazing. But you're right. It's funny you mentioned that because I trained in a new buyer for my company today, and the question was, ever feel remorse or bad? I said, why would you?
Right.
Because you're actually helping these people.
Yes.
You buy a house that nobody would buy, you know, and you're not holding a gun to their head and say, you got to sell me this house at this price. You make an offer that makes sense, that's reasonable for your business, and they accept.
Right.
You know, it's a long process from the time you sign the contract to closing.
Correct.
So it's not like, you know, so.
Here's the money, take it.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
I said, you know, what I learned in this business is that you never know the full story.
Correct.
You can only know what they want to tell you when you're there. And then you're going to make an offer that makes sense for your business. That's reasonable for both parties. And if they want to move forward, then I said, it's actually better if they were selling to me than to another investor down the street. I cannot guarantee what that other investor will do. Yeah. But I know what I'm going to do.
You know, and another thing is like, you know, the good players, and unfortunately, you know, and every industry has good and bad players, but the good players, when they commit, they execute. They're not going to like string people along. They're not going to back out at the 11th hour, you know, create more stress and distress for people, right? Like, hey, if we work out a deal, like we're going to make it happen, right? And so that's very, you know, I always commend the people that are really solving real problems for people. But, you know, it's a hazy world out there. There's people that are not necessarily always in the up and up. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Tell me about your best deal. Like, is it top of mind? What was the best deal you've done so far? You know, you've bought and sold so many.
Best deal. Bought the property and hadn't touched it yet. This is when Open Door was at top, like really popular at the time. So I said, okay, let's see what Open Door will pay. Right. I submitted my information to Open Door, and they pay way above what I thought I was going to sell it for.
Wow.
So
like locked it up.
It was six figure profit.
Wow. In and out. That's incredible. Well, you know, unfortunately, we know what was happening now with these iBuyers, right?
Unfortunately, they're not paying that kind of number anymore.
The math has changed a little bit. The math has definitely changed. But, you know, look, at the end of the day, as an investor, highest and best exit for our, you know, and return on our capital, right? So like if there's an easy means to get out and get recapitalized and profit, take it. Right? Like, you know, same story for them. Nobody forced them to buy it, right? So that's incredible. I remember for a couple, I think things have definitely changed and the environment is different in this market, but like that was a strong channel for a lot of kind of, you know, that kind of in and out, you know, real estate investors, right? So like, it was incredible. You know, will we see those times again? I don't know, but it's an incredible era. Give me a story of the worst deal.
I have a name for it.
Okay.
Nightmare.
The fact that it has a name is already something. Go ahead.
Nightmare on M Street.
Nightmare on M Street. I love that. All right. Well, tell me about the nightmare.
I had to rehab twice.
Twice?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, tell me what happened.
So this property was on pier and beams. Rehabbed. Then it needed foundations. So then we tore everything up, the whole subfloor and everything, and gonna do foundation. And look, I didn't know, right? So then we got a red tag from the city. So now we got to pause and go get permit. Then during the time when we're getting permit, it was raining a lot. And my contractor said, I can't work there. You got a lot of snakes under the house.
Oh my God.
Seriously. So long story short, I think I held it for a year. Probably.
Just working through all the
problems.
Yep.
Rehab, whatever. Got it fixed, got the foundations done, got the house beautiful. Then I had a showing and there was some kind of marking on the wall. And what happened was moisture was accumulating underneath and it went into the property. Luckily, we had an engineer to come out and suggested to put sand underneath to help the moisture to go away. And we cure that problem quickly rather than like having to do a third rehab on the property.
Oh my God, what a mess.
So, I mean, it was like tore up. Like we did the first rehab and then it was tore up. Like everything has to be redone, new cabinets, new
Oh my God.
subfloor, new
what
flooring.
What a mess. But profit at the end of it?
I was profitable, yes.
That's a testament to your ability to find deals, because even having to muscle through all that unexpected expenses and you still landed positive, which is incredible.
So go to show the kind of risk that we take on, right?
Yes,
I mean, if I didn't buy that property at the right number,
yes,
I would be in deep, deep, deep trouble.
Correct. You know, and the adage, which now is like ingrained in my brain, is you make your money when you buy it, right? Like that's when you've actually solidified the upside, not when you sell. It's like, if you bought it right, then you'll be all right? Like that kind of thing.
Well, I got an added statement after that, right? You make money when you buy, but you collect it when you sell.
Right, yes.
But if you don't sell it right, you're not going to collect it.
That's right, that's true. So it works on both sides of it. So let's talk about early on kind of how you finance things. Hard money loans, cash, savings, friends. Like, how did you capital? I mean, like I'm a new investor. Like, how on earth do I do this? Like, capital is that's one thing that people don't realize in real estate. It's extremely, as for new people, it's extremely capital intensive. Like money's flying out the door and all these unexpected things, checks.
Yeah.
These people need checks and cash right now, and that's just how it works, and time is money. And how did it start? How did you begin?
I'm very resourceful. I always trying to figure out things way different outside of the box thinker. So just like most people, I started with exhausting family and friends funds.
Okay.
Then I also I had a variable universal life that I started.
Life insurance policy?
Yes,
okay.
Life insurance policy when in my 20s.
Great.
So I was able to...
That was only a few years ago.
Yeah, right. But the interest rate was high. So I was able to grow. Like I didn't do it, but since I was putting money in it consistently, so that the cash value in my life insurance policy grew to where I was able to take the money out and buy some property with that and then use that to just keep
That's incredible.
growing. I did have to use hard money lender early on, but I was surrounded with good people that I learned that I need to get out of using hard money.
Right.
So as I was, using hard money to build up my credential, my rep sheet, you say, I'm also building a relationship with banks so that eventually I could, use bank money because they're less expensive than hard money or private money even. So that's how I start, friends and family, whatever funds I can get my hands on.
I love that. And so that's a thing that I don't even for, kind of I wouldn't say you're like a full-fledged flipper, but kind of in and out of transactions a lot. After you build a relationship with banks, there are banks that'll actually fund this type of business, right? It's not just limited to most people think is I have to get a traditional mortgage to buy it and do all these things, or the in-between, which is the hard money lenders and the fix and flip, private lenders, right? There's a whole nother level that you can get into once you have time in the business, right? And a good reputation and a good operator, right? And those are kind of fundamentals for any business person, right? If you run a good business, banks have an appetite for that, right? And they want to see that grow. Even in a complex banking environment today, things have changed a lot, right? But you still can be very bankable, right? If you run a good business and a lean business, right? So that's incredible. I don't know a lot of people that have actually achieved banks that help fund kind of this, wholesale flipping type of business, right? That's not easy to do. That's incredible.
It wasn't easy because my first conversation with a banker was this banker, an older man. And now the key is you can't go to Chase and Wells Fargo and those kind of banks for it. You got to go to your community banks, and it would be better if you have an introduction. So I knew that and I came prepared, but this banker just took a look at me and just didn't really want to do business, right? So it wasn't easy, but I just kept going at it and kept fighting other bankers and
Love that.
You keep going and, just, I don't know how to take no. I don't like to sit and feel sorry for myself. So if this way doesn't work, I'll figure out another way. I'll use another door.
There's something that I always think about, and I think it's universal for any entrepreneur, business person, or anybody that's kind of like willing to put themselves out there. I think the pedigree of those that really level up is how many no's you've heard. The more no's you've heard, the farther along you've gotten, right? The more consistently you hear no. Right? Like, if you're hearing 50 no's, like even in the acquisitions business,
right,
you're going to hear a lot of no's, right? And you have to get through all those no's to find those few yeses, right? The same thing with banking relationships for all things, right? Like you're going to consistently hear no's to your business model, your business plan, whatever, until you come around to those yeses. But every no, you learn something, you tweak something, you improve, right? Maybe your pitch is bad, maybe your offer was bad, like whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
But that kind of improves the DNA of us, right, as entrepreneurs and business people. So I love that, like more no's, right? So tell me about the next few years. Like, where are you headed? You said you got this vision board. It's evolved. It's adapted. We said 130 doors was the beginning. Now it's a portfolio value, right?
Yeah.
Some freedom number from like obligations, some passive income stream. So what is the next few years? Like, what is the strategy to get there? You're still wearing a lot of hats.
I am.
Is that going to evolve? What is that going to look like?
My goal is to build a place where people want to be involved with. Like in my company, we have really good staff. We have really good team right now. People there because they want to be there, not just because of a paycheck. And so my goal is to provide that platform for all of my staff who want to be a part of it. And then it freed me to go travel. I love to travel.
Absolutely.
My daughter is 10, and so I want to allow her to see the world.
Yeah.
So just in the next year, we plan to go live abroad.
Incredible.
And, so it's going to be a test to my operation to see if my operation can sustain while I'm not here, right?
Correct.
And then I do want to focus on my passions a little bit more of the real estate ballers.
Yeah.
To provide that, to create that community.
Building your personal brand.
Real estate investor. The long-term goal, Apova, I like to have an orphanage one day.
Oh, incredible.
So when all of this is done and all the dust is settled and I don't know, the company can run itself, I'm going to focus my time on growing the orphanage.
That's incredible. Like, I think everybody needs whatever it is, whatever your vision is, right?
Yeah.
Like a destination. Otherwise, like we're just kind of just doing things and things are happening and the activity takes ownership versus like the productivity and where am I going with it, right? Or the objective, right? So like those, I mean, that's incredible. It sounds like you're like laid all the groundwork already, right? It's just, they got to stress test it, right?
Yeah.
Like, will it hold, like you said, like, okay, let me vacation for 3 months, 6 months, not even vacation, but just be remote and see if the business can run, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, we started buying in markets that are not in our city for our properties because we wanted the systems to sustain without us being there. Like we have a property near San Antonio. It's not that far, but I'm not getting up and driving there instantly if I had to get there, right? So like that was a test.
Yeah.
And so like we're not there and it runs, right? It took some time, work out some kinks, but it's very doable, obviously. Give me some advice for a first-time investor that's found you and says, V, what do I need to know? How do I do this? How do I build a portfolio like yours? What's the very beginning? Like, what are you telling a young rookie that's ready to take the same plunge you did?
I'm going to give you a long-winded answer.
Please.
Because it depends. Like I started when I didn't have connections, resources, like money, right? I didn't have a rich family with money and all. So it's different. It's what are you...
And that's why I love your story, by the way. Because, nor was I given any silver spoons. But like when you have zero, you can risk it all because there's nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
But some people just don't have the initiative to like just recognize like actually it's an advantage versus a disadvantage.
Totally agree.
Right? But sorry, please.
No,
I just had to grab that moment.
On your point, when I first started this ugly house business, going to these homes, my family, my friends, and all go, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I mean, if I fail, okay, well, I'll do something else. There's nothing to lose, like you said. So I'll give it a shot. And I put a deadline. I'll give it 6 months. And if I don't make it, I'll get out. I'll do something else. And I'll go get a job, be miserable like most other people.